are listening to KRSM LP 98.9 FM Minneapolis. This is a social enterprise of Pillsbury United Communities.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of KRSM or our community partners.
Hey, y'all. We're back again for another special episode of
Sisters of the System.
I am your very own DJ, Ricky Furiosa.
And y'all already know who it is. It's your girl, E.B. Marie.
And you guys, you know, this community is just absolutely up in flames right now. It's been absolutely ridiculous. So a good way that I felt for us to start off this episode with would be our affirmation for the week, which is my strength is greater than any struggle, which means that we have the power to overcome any hurdle or any obstacle that's thrown our way. You know, look at it as molehills to giants and just step right on over it and keep on pushing through, because we have the capability and the power to make whatever it is that we want to happen, what changes we want to see happen in our communities, a reality. So everybody stay safe, and you know we all love you at Sisters of the System.
Amen, and that we do. Now, you guys, it has been heavy in the city. It has been heavy in the state. It has been heavy across the country and across the world. Today's episode is going to be one of those heavy episodes. We will definitely be bringing you information and education, tips to help keep you safe. And we're going to also discuss the things that have been going on and why everybody is in an uproar.
Yeah, we have some amazing guests planned for you guys today. So we'll keep our news kind of brief so we can introduce these amazing people that have been doing work around our community during this time. So, as some of you may have known, ICE agents have shot a man in Minneapolis following a shovel attack last night. A federal officer has shot a man in the leg in the U.S. city of Minneapolis after being attacked with a shovel, according to reports, as he tried to make an arrest. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, says in a statement on X, the DHS said Wednesday's shooting happened after a car chase involving a Venezuelan national who was in the country illegally. It ended in a crash, and the driver was joined by two more people who all attacked the officer. It said the man who was shot was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The man was wounded in Wednesday's shooting, and an ICE officer was also taken to the hospital to be treated for injuries. The DHS statement said that after the pursuit, the man got out of his car and an altercation broke out between him and the federal agent. The agency added, while the subject and law enforcement were in a struggle on the ground, the two subjects came out of a nearby apartment and also attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and a broom handle. As the officer was being ambushed and attacked by the two individuals, according to the report, the original subject got loose and began striking the officer with the shovel. The DHS statement went on to say he was fearing for his life and safety as he was being ambushed by the three individuals, and the officer fired defensive shots, and added that both attackers are in custody.
Well, that is one of the many, many things that has happened in our city. And we actually have two guests in the studio with us right now that we want to hear from. And let's talk a little bit about this incident. I know that you guys have been on the streets and on the front lines and seeing things that are just not being shown on TV. Zoe and Aaron, could you guys introduce yourselves to our listeners and give us a little bit of insight on this?
Thank you very much. My name is Zoe Magnificent. I'm Zoe Magnificent. I'm an artist, and I'm trying to do my trauma work, my trauma healing, and part of that work has been getting used to retraining my nervous system not to overreact to assertions of force or threats of authority, and to not overreact to authority. And so for the last year or so, I've been essentially practicing by painting in places where I'm not really allowed to be, but I'm not really not allowed to be. And so I've brought that practice to the space in between protesters and enforcers in the moment that history has come to our doorstep.
And my name is Aaron. I originally grew up in Southside in the area that George Floyd was killed by MPD, and now Renee Good has been killed by ICE. And in 2020, I have kind of a very wild story, but not to get too into it, but in 2020, I was newly paralyzed from a stroke that was caused by COVID mixing with my autoimmune disease. And I was in shut-in, and, I was watching all these powerful stories on Unicorn Riot, Mercado Media, Georgia Ford, et cetera. And it was my way of staying in touch with the community that I grew up in. So naturally, when I was vaccinated and I was taking my first steps using a walker again, I was actually marching in the streets for the murder of Dante Wright. And I started filming stuff and documenting history, world history in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And one thing kind of led to another, and my videos started spreading, and I was able to raise funds for a camera, like a real one. And now I'm doing a documentary on unhoused encampments in Minneapolis and doing real-time updates from the streets as this situation keeps continually developing with ICE.
And let me just say, you guys, the guest that we have on tonight, Zoe Magnificent has been here before just recently. So he is a returning guest. And as you guys know, I found him on Instagram doing his trauma healing work. And Aaron also as well. I found him on Instagram. I've been following him for a while now. I feel like since COVID, because that's when all the encampments came about and were getting destroyed, and people had to rebuild their homes and their livelihood and what little bit of livelihood they had. And yeah, I mean, it's just interesting and tough. The work that, and I say the work because it is absolutely work to put your body, your mind, your emotional being through what you guys are going through and putting yourselves into. Zoe, you were just recently caught on the news. You were painting. You were in the middle of a painting during a protest, and they got you in the background. During that protest, what were you feeling in that moment as somebody who has worked super duper hard on your healing and your trauma and what I would consider having a lot of authority over your body and your emotions?
I really appreciate you saying it like that. That is not how it feels to me. On this side, when I'm sitting down, I put my butt on the ground almost always, and I do that on purpose because I want to feel grounded. I sit in a place that I don't think I'll get hurt, but I do think that I'll get attention. I do think that I'll be noticed, and I try to project. Or I try to get the centeredness that really brings me to my true self, and then project that energy. It's a peace energy. It's enraging what I'm seeing, and also the only thing that I have in my whole body to respond to every single person there is love, and so what I'm doing is I'm sitting there in fear, knowing that I will be the slowest runner. I will be the person most seated, so that if or when somebody is going to overreact, it'll land on my head.
That is a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of responsibility. And then, Aaron, I wanted to ask you, with your experience being on the front lines and being a part of this whole era with the encampments and seeing how things played out during those times, and now being a part of this, not to mention you were out protesting with the Dante Wright situation when he was murdered. How does this feel the same or different?
Wow. I love studying history. I'm a World War I or Great War historian. And I have also studied the American Revolutionary War, which, for better or worse, with colonization aside, I think that we should be paying attention to the lessons that they had to learn so that we don't have to relearn them. And that kind of sort of plays into what I was about to say of my overall view of history, which is not so much that history repeats, but really just history kind of continues in this pattern. And it's sort of bobs and weaves, or kind of gets hot and cold a little bit, but, if you really look at just, going back to the encampments, I mean, to me, when I see that, I think about the concentration camp that is at Fort Snelling in the late 1800s during the Emancipation Proclamation. They are now holding ICE detainees there. There were 4 Lakota Oglala members that have been arrested, and ICE or the U.S. government is trying to use them as a barter, like to trade with their band of tribe. They're trying to trade them basically immunity for ICE. Like they're proposing these 4 members will be returned if ICE agents are allowed onto the reservation. So we're seeing a lot of things that we heard about that were supposedly a long time ago. But, those 4 people are being held right at the Whipple Federal Building, which is right at Fort Snelling. Not to mention, if you really zoom out in history, what we call Latino or Hispanic here in modern day the U.S., those are indigenous Americans of Turtle Island. So if you think about their being processed in that same location, that's really what I'm seeing repeating. I see the encampments, especially Camp Ninokasi. It's a native tradition-led encampment, unhoused encampment, very heavily indigenous population within that community. And, yeah, I just see the continuation of genocide. So these are linked, in my view.
Well, Democrats across the U.S. proposed state laws restricting ICE after this Minneapolis shooting that took place. Let's go back a little bit. And you guys, I do want to let you know that what we're about to talk about is pretty graphic and could be considered pretty heavy. And it will be mentioned again later on in the episode, so trigger warning. Federal immigration agents deployed to Minneapolis have used aggressive crowd control tactics that have become a dominant concern in the aftermath of the deadly shooting of Minneapolis woman Renee Nicole Good in her car last week. They have pointed rifles at demonstrators and deployed chemical irritants early in confrontations. They have broken vehicle windows and pulled occupants from cars. They have scuffled with protesters and shoved them to the ground. The government says the actions are necessary to protect officers from violent attacks. The encounters, in turn, have riled up all protesters even more than we've seen before, especially as videos of incidents are shared widely on social media. What is unfolding in Minneapolis reflects a broader shift in how the federal government is asserting its authority during protests, relying on immigration agents and investigators to perform crowd management roles traditionally handled by local police, who often have more training in public order tactics and de-escalating large crowds. How do you interpret the recent fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent in South Minneapolis on January 7th, especially given the conflicting accounts from federal officials and eyewitnesses about whether she posed as a threat or not? Aaron or Zoe?
You want to step up?
I interpret it with art. I interpret it as trauma. I interpret it as something to be grieved. I interpret it as an echo of trauma cycles that existed in the childhood and in the parenthood of the officers, of their families, of our society, and our entire financial system being set up on enforcement with violence. I think it's another version of an experiment that we're all running to see what are we able to do as a society of nonviolent people, and this is another place where that experiment has come up short.
In my entire teenage years, my best friend throughout high school and beyond, he lived on 35th in Portland, and that really was kind of my home away from home during those years. And so for this to happen on 34th in Portland, you know, in a place that is so, I identify with like a big part of my sort of developmental years. It's really hard. You know, there's something that feels very personal about it. There's something that feels like, you know, I was there that morning after the events happened, but I was there when the police were repressing and suppressing everyone and allowing ICE to get away and essentially acting as an accessory in that sense to the crime itself. And it's really personal. It feels personal. And I also think that, you know, as somebody who's physically disabled surviving the U.S., you know, there's a saying that I think a lot of various marginalized communities can relate to, which is that they practice it on us so they can perfect it against you. And that's really what I'm interpreting Minneapolis as a grounds for right now. I think that they wanted a civil war in 2020, and they got the beginnings of one. But, you know, we were able to kind of like keep it together. And so now there's this kind of like, you know, I mean, Donald Trump has openly sworn retribution on us. So, you know, right now they're seeing how we react, probably measuring like how to counteract our reactions when they do this in Atlanta, when they do this in Chicago, when they do this in Portland again, and et cetera. That's what I'm seeing.
I want to step back to when you mentioned the things you've seen with the encampments and how it correlates and reminds you of different things relating to the Native American people. From your viewpoint, Aaron, what does the deployment of thousands of ICE and other federal agents to Minneapolis signify about federal priorities and how they affect local communities, particularly Black and brown communities?
Wow. Well, you know, as a white man or white male guy, whatever, you know, I'm not sure if I can be but from what I see and what kind of experienced in the movement and, you know, in the early, like the first half of the 2020s so far, Minneapolis has been under a military occupation. After the George Floyd uprising in 2020, National Guard was here, and I believe Army, don't quote me, please do your own due diligence. But there was a very strong military occupation. There was, you know, Humvees with turrets. There was troop transports. We had military drones buzzing everywhere. Our whole downtown was behind concrete barriers and razor wire, and we're talking skyscrapers, like surrounded by these things. So we kind of have been in this environment before, and I think that we know what to do. I think that this is, again, a continuation of militarized police presence in the first place against Black and brown communities. Look at the move bombings in Philadelphia. They literally bombed people. So this is an escalation of that, but this is nothing new. It is in its current context. In its current form, it's very intense. Let me rephrase that. But the violence
I get what you mean.
New.
I get what you mean. Like the crimes against us as Americans, as citizens, as Minnesotans, it's been happening. I do want to ask, you know, and, you know, maybe this question would be a little bit more directed towards you, Zoe. Well, I wanted to ask, with the emotional state that our leader might be in, but I shouldn't call him our leader. With the with the emotional state that our state is in, and with the possible heightened emotions our president could be feeling, do you think that the democracy of our state fuels the fire to Donald Trump a little bit?
The democracy of our state? Can you let me know what you mean by that?
So, like, how our state is very, very, very much second chance. You can get on your feet here. We are going to stand behind you and support you. We are a community. If you're hungry, we're going to feed you. If you're walking without shoes, we're going to find some. We're going to give you our jacket if you ain't got a coat. Like, do you think that fuels the hate towards us and what's happening in our communities right now?
I tend to operate much more locally than that, so I don't try to imagine the state of mind of a man 7,000 miles away. Or
No, I get that.
Far he is, and then sort of interpret it back here. We have 3,000 men with guns on the streets here. We have 3,000 scared people with guns on our streets here right now, and they've been given a job to collect more people than they can find and figure out a way to arrest them. This is my understanding of it. And so I don't care very much about what's happening in the mind of the man in Washington, D.C., let alone trying to project or interpret it. I care about the people who are hurting people right now here, and I care about the people that are hurting.
Amen. I know I've been a little bit more quiet this episode. As some of you know who follow me on social media, it has been the craziest week of my life. So I'm sitting over here literally just like, now that things are simmering down and I'm not so, pent up, I'm just kind of like, okay, take a deep breath. As a member of the community, a mother, a sister, a cousin, a friend, it's shaking to see all of this happening in our streets and right at our front doors. And we want to remind you guys that these are our views. These are our opinions. They're not the views of KRSM Radio. We're allowed to talk about these things and the things that are happening in our community, and it's absolutely important. And if you'd like to chime in during this hour, we'll be in until 8 o'clock. You can hit that phone number at 612-699-3222. We love to hear from you.
Well, guys, before we go on break and bring in our next guests, Zoe the Magnificent and Aaron, would you guys like to leave us and our listeners with some final thoughts?
You only have one fleeting life. It is brief, and even in this life, you only have this one moment, the current moment, the present moment. This is the moment that you're making the decisions that matter for the rest of your life. And this is the moment that history has come to record and to see who we are. So make this moment count.
And what I would like to add is free the people of Iran from global, they're in the middle of it all. Free the people of Venezuela. Let's not forget that they were just invaded and their president was abducted. Release the list. We want the Epstein list released. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump is absolutely complicit. I'm hearing he was possibly Epstein's boss. So what I think about what's going on in Minneapolis, what's going on in Venezuela, I think that it is an elaborate plan to try to distract us from releasing the list.
And there you have it.
You heard it here. So where can our listeners find you to and support your movements?
Zoe Magnificent. I spell it X-O, Zoe. So XOMAGNIFICENT. I'm on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. And my website is zoemagnificent.com.
And my main engagement is on Instagram, but you can find me on all the major platforms, including SoundCloud if you like house music. But a lot of my documentary work and political stuff is DJ, like a disc jockey, DJ ADD MPLS, as in Minneapolis. DJ ADD MPLS, hit it up.
All right, you guys, you heard it here. Check them out on their social medias. We're going to hit you with a quick music break, and we'll be back with our second set of guests. So thank you for listening, and we'll be back. Yes, I must. All right, welcome back to KRSM Radio. You are listening to Sisters of the System. You just listened to Bob Marley and Pablo Moses. We are back with our interview with the Jolly Good Ginger and our special guest,
Will.
Hey, how's it?
Hey, how's it?
How's it? Hey, Will.
Well, guys, as you guys are joining us back, before we left off, we were talking about the stuff we wish would melt here, and I ain't talking about that slippery stuff outside. Right. But nonetheless, why don't we jump right back into the episode where we're going to discuss these trending, tragic topics. Jolly, my first question for you What motivated you as a veteran to travel from Washington, D.C. to our city, Minneapolis, to protest federal actions here? And how does your experience in service shape your perspective on these events?
So, I've been traveling the country since 2020 for protests. I've been to Minneapolis right after George Floyd. We were out here protesting. I just feel compelled. In 2020, I was laid off work, so I had nothing else to do, and I had the ability to get to Minneapolis. I came, many other cities as well. Now I've been blessed with this platform, and I think that it's my civic responsibility when something like what's happening in Minneapolis is happening that I go and show the world. Because number one, again, I have the platform as my responsibility. Number two, legacy media isn't going to do it. They're all sold out. They're kissing the ring. They're spreading the government lies. We watched the government lie straight to our face after Renee Good was murdered. And so if independent media isn't out here covering this, then the world will never know what's happening out here. And then number three, I travel because I don't know how to explain it, but if I'm at home, I feel like I'm letting, the world down. I got to go. I chased ICE out in Chicago, D.C., we try to travel wherever there are. Will was with me out in D.C. He was just out, L.A., right?
L.A., New Orleans, North Carolina, all over.
Yeah, you went to New Orleans too. So, we try to get around. We try to go wherever, not only where ICE is, but where the world needs to see what's happening. And as far as my time in the Army goes, I guess it made me accustomed to traveling a lot and not being afraid to go to a place I've never been before and just get boots on the ground and go. But with what's happening in Minneapolis right now, I do have some things to draw on. Number one, all the protests I've been in throughout the country for the last 5-6 years. And then number two, what I did in the military. And I see these guys out here wearing Army uniforms, but they're not in the Army. They didn't earn those uniforms. They're wearing a police patch. They didn't go to the police academy. They're cosplaying. I call them cosplatriots. And, I see them out here wearing their helmets and everything. They're all jacked up. You can tell you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Oh, freak you're doing.
It's all right. We make mistakes.
You don't know what the heck you're doing. And, it's honestly, it's enraging to me, I talk a lot about how my service taught me that, to be anti-war. I want to be nonviolent. And I wear this hat that I was Iraq and Afghanistan veteran because I am. I denounce the occupation in Iraq and I denounce the occupation in Afghanistan. I wear this here in Minneapolis because I am who they wish they were. And I want to remind them that I earned that uniform and you didn't.
I heard that.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to remind you guys, Jolly, if you don't know, Jolly Good Ginger is on Instagram and on social media and has been an activist for a long, long time and has been doing his thing and exactly what he calls it, fearlessly traveling to places where there's unjust happening and making sure that the world sees it with his boots directly on the ground, on the front lines. Over these past few days, with your travel being here in Minneapolis, just from the things that I've been able to witness from your Instagram page, it's very telling that it does mean a lot to you, what you've gone through, what you've trained for, what you've worked for, what you've earned, being displayed right in front of you, and completely dishonored, like completely handled in just the direct opposite way it should be handled 100%. And cared.
Yep. I said this to somebody a couple of days ago. I'll say it now. When we were overseas, and Will, you can probably speak to this as well. When we were overseas deployed to a combat area, we had strict rules of engagement and escalation of force and how we treated the local population. And I will say this. If we did to the citizens in Iraq what ICE is doing to the citizens in Minneapolis, we would have been court-martialed.
I would agree. We would be in prison right now. We'd be at Fort Leavenworth for that. That's total crime, total violation of military justice.
And I say that because I want everyone to understand the gravity of what I just said. If I treated the citizen of the country that we were actively at war with the way that ICE treats citizens here, I would have lost my rank. I would have gone to Fort Leavenworth. I would have been court-martialed out of the Army, which is a good thing, by the way. I'm not thinking. I don't think that we should treat the Iraqi citizens the way ICE is, but I'm showing that while they're cosplaying in their military uniforms they didn't earn, they're also not acting like a professional should act in that type of uniform.
Mm-hmm. They're
And not
tarnishing what you work for.
Yes.
And not to mention, this is a U.S. city, and it's occupied by a military force. There's nothing more to it. This is an army. This is Trump's private army invading Minneapolis.
And that's exactly what it feels like. That is exactly what it feels like. It feels like war being waged on the American citizens of Minneapolis and Minnesota, of Minnesotans across the board. And that there's nothing anybody wants to do about it. Local leaders and residents have raised concerns about transparency and accountability, citing the state investigators were initially involved but then excluded from key evidence in the fatal shooting investigation of Renee Nicole Good. What reforms or oversight measures would you advocate for to ensure fair investigations of federal law enforcement actions?
When it comes to police reform, I would listen to the black community that's been telling us how to reform police for the past 80 years. I think if we listened to black leaders and black liberation movements, we wouldn't even be here, to be quite frank with you. So what I've learned from listening to black leaders is that police reform looks like community building. It looks like people policing communities from where they live and that represent the population. And these guys are coming in from out of state. These guys are coming in, with violent intentions. Mm-hmm. As far as this investigation goes, the federal government's taking it away from the state level. And you saw the video. They're taking her vehicle out of the car the day it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry, her vehicle out of the state. I apologize. Her vehicle out of the state the day it happened.
Oh, wow. I actually didn't know that.
Yes. And the way things are supposed to happen when there's a shooting, CSI is supposed to come out, do, trajectory, put the little strings in, show the trajectory of bullets, do blood splatter on the site before anybody contaminates the crime scene. They just took the vehicle out of the state without any of that happening for the sole intent purpose of, the state not being able to conduct an investigation. And so when it comes to reform, I don't know that you can reform, right, this system. I mean, again, I continually resort back to this is white supremacy. And you can't reform your way out of white supremacy. This is a system built on white supremacy. And so the entire system needs to be rebuilt. I think it's been, said 1,000 times. And when it comes to the investigation of Renee Nicole Good, that ship is sailed. There'll never be an investigation that is, that has the evidence. There'll never be an investigation that's done properly because they took the car out, because they've already put the guy in hiding. They haven't taken witness statements within 72 hours of the event happening. They haven't done anything that would be necessary to make an actual investigation happen. That ship has sailed. The federal government had decided within an hour that he would be not guilty, and he's been given immunity. So there is no investigation.
As somebody personally that has taken forensic courses in CSI at Macalester College, I also knew when the agent was whisked away, I also knew at that moment that this investigation was going to be scrambled because he's leaving. His gun is leaving. Everything
Correct.
everything that's a part of this investigation is leaving, and it all needs to sit still.
Facts. I mean, you're not wrong. And when Christy Nome, Cruel Nome, I don't know who called her Cruella Nome the other day on TV, but it was the best description. Because the movie 101 Dalmatians?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You look really young, so I didn't know if you knew.
No, I know. I'm 32.
Okay. But there was the mean lady in 101 Dalmatians that was still the puppies. That was Cruella. So they call her Cruella Nome. Anyway, when she came out, I mean, literally within an hour, give this story of being stuck in the snow and he got hit by the car. We've seen it, right? Like,
No, seriously. One contentious point has been the alleged blocking of medics and delayed medical assistance after the fatal shooting. How do you think communities should respond when emergency protocols are not followed or are unclear in federal operations?
Well, personally, we had a medic out there today. We had a member of our organization, or a former Army medic, out there to take care of medical, care at Whipple today because they were just attacking peaceful protesters. So the community really needs to find, medical care and support it themselves. They need to bring it themselves because the people, the state's not going to bring it. The feds aren't going to bring it. We need to take care of each other just like we do in a community at a daily basis.
But to that point, they did, like you said, block the one medic that was there. The guy was on site saying, I'm a physician. Let me just check her vitals. And they said no. Mm-hmm. I mean, the inhumanity of it all. And you say how you think communities should respond was the question. I don't know that I can say out loud how I think communities should respond. But
yeah.
I think...
No, I get it.
I think if everybody listens real loud to the words between my words, we know how we should respond when they do something like that.
Yes, and for those who are joining us and didn't hear the first half of the show, a general reminder, these are the views and opinions of ourselves and the Sisters of the System, not KRSM or any of our affiliates. If you would like to share your opinions or feelings on this situation, hit that number, 612-699-3222. We're on the air until 8 o'clock. We'd love to hear from you, or if you have any questions for our guests, give us a call.
Oh, that's dope. You got calling. I like that.
Oh, yeah, we got calls.
We got to check you guys out more often.
Yes, check us out. Check us out. Period.
Yeah, I like the shows. I'm like, because I'm an old head. I like the shows where they call in.
Yes, and we love the whole and you mentioned that I look kind of young. I'm kind of young, and this is my first DJing opportunity.
Right.
And I grew up on radio. I grew up on KDWB. I grew up on Dave Ryan, and I want to play my trivia show, my trivia questions, and I want to give away stuff. And even if I get one caller every 3 months, come get your prize.
No, we do kind of keep it old school. We hit them with the you're listening to KRSM and the nights. No.
Jumping back into the episode here.
No, it's good to have a laughing break. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's been stressful for everybody, so we have to keep it lighthearted. Like, EB is an artist. I'm an artist. This is my friend in the studio. Artists themselves. It's important for us to keep that joy and bring the laughter to everybody right now. That's activism in itself. It's so important.
No, joy is resistance. I tell you that all the time. Joy is resistance. They want you to be beat down. They want you to be depressed. They want you to be sad. And me and Will today, we were talking about there. We got tear gassed a few times, and it's stuck to our clothes, and it's burning our face. While we're talking right now, I can feel my face burning.
God forbid you wear a giraffe suit.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Shout out Robbie Road Steamer. And so to come here and break the mood a little bit and laugh, joy is resistance. They want you to cry, and we got to laugh to defeat fascism.
They want to wear us down every single day. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We need to remember that.
50 Cent. Many men wish death from me, and I don't cry no more. Don't look to the sky no more. Have mercy on me. All right. How do you address criticisms from those who argue federal agents were acting under self-defense or within legal authority versus all of us who have seen the actions as unjustified and symptomatic or border symptom? Wait. They were unjustified and symptomatic or border systemic issues. What evidence or principle guides your views here?
Have you seen the person who does the? She plays the ukulele and she says, "I can't believe the leopards need my face." Chess Kali is her name.
And does she sing about? Does she sing about activism?
I think she might.
I'm gonna check her out.
Yeah,
What's her name?
I hope I'm not saying it wrong. It's Chess Kali. It's Francesca's her real name, but her social media is Chess Kali, Kaleigh. And it's from this really popular meme where it says the lady voted for the face eating leopard party, and then when the leopards ate her face, she couldn't believe the leopards ate her face, and it's kind of a joke that you vote for Nazis and Nazi shit happens, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean stuff. It's
stuff.
okay.
Shiitake.
As long as
Nazi shiitake.
It happens. We address it. We move on. We're adults here, and it happens. We stressed out.
You're
Snap.
right. So I bring her up because I seen a video from her earlier, and she articulated the answer to this question so well. She played this video, and it was this white lady saying that her and her friends are basically stressed out because their husbands are responding to the shooting of Renee Nicole Good in a way where it's like, well, self-defense, well, it's this. And they're like, what? Like, they're so okay with it. And Francesca says in a response to it, how did they act when unarmed black men were killed? Because I feel like this was an open book test.
Girl.
And I was like, oh, it was such a good response because that is this. And I said this, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. Everything that ICE is doing now, I was I think you might have been with me, Will, but I was somewhere. It was D.C., actually. It was D.C., and they were like taking our stuff, taking our phones, doing stuff that's not legal or whatnot. And a bunch of white people were complaining about it. And I was like, guys, they're just doing what we've been letting police get away with for 50 years, right? They're just doing it to white people
250 years.
Yeah, right. But they're just doing it to white people now, and you're getting and now you see it. But the black and brown community's been telling us forever that police do this. And I see literally. I made the parallel of Philando Castile when Renee Nicole Good was killed. Right, Philando was in the car. He was following the instructions of the officer. He was not a threat, and then the officer got scared and shot him. And they were telling Renee, move your car. So she went to move her car, right? Now, the other guy was jerking her car door.
I know, there was multiple
commands being given.
Yeah, so what can you do in that moment?
Exactly.
Anybody in anxiety, people with anxiety or when they're afraid, it's going to be fight, flight, flee, at that point, or, freeze.
Fight or flight.
Or even fawn. But in that moment, she probably was thinking it's best for me to flee, right? She's not
especially when one guy is saying leave, like she was following.
Yeah,
and she was in the process of leaving. She was backing up to get out
to clearly
of the
avoid
way.
The officer.
There was a car coming. She was being kind enough to wave them through. She was trying to wave that truck through, and then those two officers bounced down. As we're coming up on the last few minutes of our episode, Will and Jolly, as veterans and activists, what message do you want people across the country to take away from the protests in Minneapolis, both about these specific incidents and about the role of citizen activism in holding government accountable?
I want people to get off their couches. I want you to get loud. I want you to get on the streets. I want you to spend every single moment of your free time resisting. Because we're at 1939 Germany right before they started burning Jews right now, in my opinion. So we need to stand up now. We need to use our First Amendment rights. We need to get loud. We need to get in their faces before we have to use our Second Amendment, because that's where we're heading. The Republic has fallen, in my opinion, at this point. So if we don't get loud now, if we don't start having 1 million people in the streets like in the Civil Rights Movement, this country's gone. It's too late.
First of all, I agree with all of that. And second of all, my input is, the Guard's not coming to save Minnesota. That conversation was had, and it's over. It's being clear. It's not going to be yours. Last night in North Minneapolis, when the ICE shot 2 people, there was a huge confrontation. I was there for the whole thing between the citizens and the residents of the neighborhood and ICE. Lots of tear gas deployed. And then at the end of that confrontation, Minneapolis PD and Minnesota State Police showed up and protected ICE, and also Minnesota State Police and Minneapolis Police Department gassed us after ICE had been gassing us the whole night. So the Guard's not coming. The state police aren't going to save you. The city police aren't going to save you. I think the takeaway from this has to be that we, the people, are our only chance at safety. And again, not a new concept. Who keep us safe? We keep us safe. Not a new concept. And so I think that people, and I think in this case primarily white people, need to learn that we are the only hope we have of keeping us safe. If we, the people, don't rise up, listen, we've never been able to trust cops. The cops turning on us last night wasn't a surprise, but I was happy that I got it on camera so I could show people, see, cops ain't going to save us. Tim Walz made it clear he's not deploying the Guard. We have to keep us safe. And I think that if we don't take that away from Minneapolis, then I think we're in a lot of trouble, because Minneapolis is it's worse than I could put in words, and it's worse than I could show on a video.
But what I want to say is that Minneapolis has given me hope. The resistance here, the whole community's out in the streets, and they're not just getting, shot at pepper balls and tear gas together. We had a guy at Whipple the other day cooking bacon and eggs and bringing it to the people. Today we had people bringing pizza, water, coats, jackets. The community's coming together. And then we went to, what was the name of the pizza place afterwards?
Oh, Rectangle.
Rectangle Pizza, where they're, organizing for the community. They're raising money
Shout
for
out.
Latino communities. The people in Minneapolis are giving me hope.
Period.
Well, sorry.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming to Minneapolis, traveling this far to be a part of this grotesque and continuously growing tragedy. We're hoping and we're praying for better days. It was a pleasure to have you guys on air with us tonight.
It was truly a pleasure being here. I appreciate you guys having me. I hope more people come and check out your show. And, before I go, I feel obligated to give a shout-out to the people in Minneapolis. A lot of people say, hey, Jolly, thanks for being here, thanks for being here. I'm just another pissed-off American, and there's a lot of pissed-off Americans in the street with me every single day, standing up against ICE. Drive down Linden and Lake right now, and you're going to see citizens on every corner with whistles, they're ready to call ICE out. They're watching for ICE. They're protecting their immigrant community. They're protecting the immigrant businesses. And, yeah, shout-out to everybody in Minneapolis who's standing up against this travesty.
Well, unfortunately, guys, that's the time we have. We didn't get to our safety tips this week, so make sure you're tuning in next week for our MLK episode and more discussions on what's happening in Minneapolis. This is your girl, E.B. Marie.
And this is DJ Ricky Furiosa. You heard it here. ICE presence is heavy in Minneapolis, and the roads are going to be slick. We'll have Arctic temperatures this weekend, so stay safe and stay sane. We love you guys. Jolly Good Ginger, where can they find you online?
I am on all social media platforms, jolly_good_ginger.
All right. DJ Ricky Furiosa.
E.B. Marie.
Jolly Good Ginger.
The Woke Farmer.
The Woke Farmer, a.k.a. Will. Y'all have a good night.
All power to the people.
Shafi, I'm Lele K.
And this has been another episode of Sisters of the System. Good night.
Chill.
Night.